Hey, Alicia, why does AI copy always come back sounding the same?
That's because every tool starts from zero. It doesn't know who you are, so you get the average of everyone.
So what's the fix?
Today,
Uh-oh. Oh, am I lagging?
we are lagging.
Oh, darn it.
So funny.
Well, there was our try for our cold open. But this is the Shift AI show presented by AWeber. If you can imagine it, you can build it with AWeber. And then it looped. That screen didn't go into the next one.
Where is Jesse when we need him?
I know. Am I better now?
There is some music in the background, but you do sound better.
Huh.
That was probably the lag.
Oh.
It's on repeat right now.
Really? I don't see that on my stream. I'm going to jump out and come back in. Be right back. All right. Any better?
I think so.
Okay.
Welcome to the Shift. So today we are going to be talking about, oh no.
What's happening?
It's repeating again.
Let me look at the actual live one. I think it might be an issue on your end.
I will leave.
Yeah, just watching the live stream, it might be on your end. So just pop back in, and folks, this is has been a rough one, and we're what, 3.5 minutes in? Well, today what we're going to be talking about, and leave a message in the chat if you're experiencing lag or anything on your side. Today, what we're talking about is a way to build out a centralized brand guideline or like brand context for you to use across multiple tools, so you don't have to re-explain yourself every time. And you might say, well, like, can I just point whatever tool I'm using at my website? And the answer is, yeah, you could do that, and it'll probably give an okay representation of your voice and tone and who you are, but it's not likely to get a lot of the nuances. And another good thing about having this separate context for your brand, and when I don't want to overcomplicate this, it's just a Google Doc that I keep updated and keep pointing people to. The benefit of that is every time a builder gets something wrong, you can update that central guidance, and then every time you use it in the future, it'll be better in all of your different tools. So Alicia and I both took independently, we both tried to figure out the best way to do this, and we took very different approaches. Do you want to go first with yours, Alicia?
Hopefully all of the issues are fixed now, but I would love to. Give me one moment to share my tab again.
Nice.
So I'm not sure what happened there. Technical difficulties. Okay, so I'm going to jump into the style guide that I created, and then I'll talk about the approach I took to actually getting there. So right here, I have a plain Google Doc. You can see it's just text. I actually don't have any visuals in my style guide. It's mostly about trying to get like my whole business kind of like in one document, not just like the colors, the fonts, and things like that, but also how I write, what my mission is, and things like that. So it always has like a good general, like centralized view of my business. Because I can't stand when I'm like trying out a new AI tool or I'm like testing something out and I'm like, oh, this feels nothing like my brand. And I bet if I had something like this, which I can prove will work, you just get better results. Something that feels more like you can connect with the result better, and then ultimately, get to something you could actually use faster. So one of the things that I think Chris and I did a little bit differently here was how I started my style guide. And I did start in Claude. And if you use something like Claude or ChatGPT, it should generally know a bit about you. So I did start there and ask for a style guide, basically, of like, tell me what you know about how I write. Because I've
So
asked it to write for me.
this is without you putting anything in. You just went to the chat tool that you normally use and you
Yeah.
asked it this.
I asked it I'm like, I need a style guide.
Awesome.
But one of the things, and it asked me a couple questions like, well, give me a writing example, give me a couple things. And that's when I realized that I had this information written in like 100 different places. I have, my notes in Claude Skills. I have an outline in like the newsletter assistant for AWeber that I've spent a lot of time like making just right so my newsletters are good. I have things that I've written in Lovable for different things. So I just have information everywhere. So what I decided to do is give a brain dump of all the stuff I do. So I took screenshots of previous newsletters I've written. I took a screenshot of like the image style that I like on my blog, and screenshots of just or copy and paste like style guide and things like that. So let me share a different tab here. So this is my Claude right here, and this is how I got things started. Asked me, like I said, it asked me a bunch of questions of like things to do. I'm like, oh, I'm not going to sit here and answer all these things. So that's when I was like, aha, I have this in different places. So I pasted in a bunch of stuff, said start with this. I've shared screenshots along the way, newsletters, pasted in different content, etc., and then broke it down into a really simple guide, and actually learned a couple of cool things along the way that have proven to work really nicely. And one of my favorite things about this exercise is it actually like landed with a one-liner. And that's something I've always struggled with personally. Like, I feel like I always want to cover so much in my newsletter, and like it really helped me kind of like get back to the basics and like this is one line about what you always talk about. So it was nice to kind of like work through that with the tool a little bit. So now I'm excited for some future things coming up. But I went through, here's the things in my style guide that have, when I work through this, it really has been effective. The one-liner. So I just talked about that. One centralized idea. If I give a topic that's like a little off, it'll be like, hey, let's or twist it into a different direction, I should say. Who it's for, outline that nice and clearly. You always want to have your audience defined. The center of gravity here, which was nice, which is like where Zumba is the hero. Like I always want it to be like centralized about Zumba. It can go off in different directions, but like that's where I want it to focus. And then the voice and four traits was kind of cool. I like how it has a contrast to it. How it's warm but honest, encouraging but never fake positive. So it's like giving that like, I want it like this, but not like that, which has been pretty cool. And I've seen that come through in the results of it. And this right here, I've always had a hard time like describing like the wittiness or like the little playfulness that I like to write with. And this helped me. I can say what I want it to be, but I don't want to be goofy, So it's like that really a nice balance of how I talk, how I want my messages to write. Couple of things, say this, not this. Like, I think this is always great as far as words not to say, or like there's some things that every time I write in about Zumba in an AI tool, it always talks about discovering the joy of movement through Zumba. And I'm like, okay, well, that has very clearly become an AI thing that, I want to change that. So I'm like, never say this, instead say this. And this was all, it sounds like this is a lot, but going through this exercise, it didn't take that long. It was just kind of compiling the information together and me being like, yeah, this is good. I did share some colors with it, some screenshots of like my website, so it could pull that out. And then yeah, all in all to say, I saved this out as a Google Doc, which you saw in the beginning. So this is kind of like my centralized location now for all of this stuff. So to put that to the test, and the reason why I didn't do visuals in here, if you're wondering, as far for like imagery and stuff, is a lot of times when I'm going to copy and paste this into a lot of tools. So a lot of times if you copy and paste those images, they won't actually get added. So instead, I shared imagery that I like and asked it to describe and teach me how to talk about the imagery I liked. So there's a
That's
section
cool.
right here about like how I want my imagery to come back. I think I need to tweak it a little bit, but it actually has been okay. So I'll walk you through a couple examples. Oh, and other things. I put links on here that I don't have to paste everywhere. So that's another tip there if you want to avoid having to go to a million tabs and copy paste things. So let's share this tab instead. So I went into Lovable and I said, create me a pop-up sign-up form that promotes my class that collects first name and email. And then I pasted in that entire document, copied and pasted it right in. And it pulled out the colors, which feel a lot more like my brand. The text is great. The imagery is, it's described as being like color overlay imagery. So like that picked up really nicely. But all in all, it does feel like my brand. And I'll have to find an example of one I've done without my brand. I'll get that queued up earlier, but it's usually pink and orange and yellow, which isn't my brand. They just take that generalization of Zumba, you know? So that was nice. Here's another example in AWeber where I did the exact same thing. Create me a landing page for my virtual Zumba class, and then I pasted in that whole thing. Using the colors, I grabbed the same like chunky text. The purples are in there. It has the purple overlay in there. Feels pretty on brand for what I've described it to be. Has those like nice call out of black colors in there. I tried it in Canva. I pasted in, I said, create me a graphic for my blog post. I feel like this one needs a bit work. This is why I was like, I need the description to fix that description a bit. But it did grab the colors, the basics of the branding, but I want to make sure that I tweak it a little bit there. And then lastly, to end with a laugh, I did an image in ChatGPT. It did grab the colors, the boldness of the chunkiness in here. Feels pretty good. It's not too bad. I might prompt it to tweak it a little bit, but for fun, I said, make that Zumba instructor look a little bit more like me. And I pasted my photo from our company retreat here, and it made me look pretty muscly, and I'm pretty
That's awesome.
like maybe I'd feed it a different image that it looks a little bit more like me. But it was a pretty spot on as far as like, the colorings go. And I have to take this off the screen so it's not live. But it's
That's
really
perfect. Seriously.
Jesse and I did something similar last week, and it looked like it copied and pasted my head. The picture is so funny.
I still remember when me and Jesse were first reviewing ChatGPT Images 2.0. I had asked it to make an image of me and Jesse back when we were on the high school track team together. We weren't, but it made this like candid 90s photo of me and Jesse, and we looked crazy. It was wonderful.
It's so funny. But yeah, I love to do that because it generated a lot of images, and they're not of me, so I don't know if I would use those images or not. So I was just playing. I'm like, what if it looked like me? Definitely not using this image. But the point is, like, it's so nice to be able to one-shot something and get something closer to what you're looking for. And now what I'll do is, after going through a couple of these exercises, I go back to my centralized document and like fix it, right? I noticed my imagery wasn't good, so I'm going to work probably with Claude just on this section and show it more examples, or even figure out how to describe it better, something like that. But all to say, like, to keep this centralized thing that gets updated each time. So now when I jump in back to AWeber, I can have that already updated in my prompt and go ahead and like use that again.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. You want to see my pass?
Yeah,
Mine, I think I actually like yours better, but I think what's useful about mine is it's a way that you can potentially get from nothing to a brand guideline. So in my case, what I did is I went to Claude and I asked it to interview me to build out a business and brand profile I can use for different AI tools for guidance for my business.
Mhm.
And I put the prompt, like that one line prompt got me so much. I put that in the mega prompt guide, which I just dropped a link in. So you can try it out yourselves. Um, but let me walk you through what it did, because it did a really interesting job of interviewing me, and it asked me way fewer questions than I thought it would and got a really good result. So it asked me to start, what's the business for? And I'm doing it for this thing Jesse and I are working on called Delco Surf Shop. Delaware County is where we both live. It's landlocked, so there's not a whole lot of surfing there, but just something fun we're doing as a design project. Then the next couple questions it asked me, this was before it decided what the larger interview was. Is it asked what stage I was. I told it pre-launch. It asked me what the business model is. We're going to make shirts, doing limited drops of t-shirts and hats. And it asked me if I like what I was going to use AI tools for marketing, copywriting. It presented me with a bunch of options, and I just said all of them.
Mhm.
So now it starts walking me through trying to understand what the thing is. And it starts by asking me to tell the story. And I thought this was really cool because when you look at the actual brand guideline it made, you can see that it used this one sentence, one to decide what other questions to ask me, but also you can see this play out in the guidelines. And I was like, it's playing off the fact that Delaware County is landlocked, but there are a lot of people who love going down the shore. And there's this like summer surf culture in Delaware County. So it follows up, asks me a lot of questions. So now it knows, it understands like what this is about, that Delco is not actually a beach town. This is kind of for fun. So it asks me some questions about like, how much should we play off that? Should it be really heavily playing on the Delco idioms and phrases and accents or stuff? And I was like, not really. Like, I don't want it to be like farcical. So long story short, it asked me a lot of questions. And along the way, I did a few things that I think would be helpful for you to do if you're trying to do the same thing. I have a website for this. So I included that when it was asking me about the visual brand. I was like, just follow the direction of my website. And then also, I don't remember where else. Oh, right here. It asked me about visual canon. What are the brand colors and the type vibe? And instead of going and finding all those things, I just went and took a screenshot of my website. And it did a really good job of translating that in the end result. So there was a lot of stuff in there, but this is what it produced for me. And I'll just show you in the Google Doc. It's easier to read. I'm not going to go through this step by step, but I thought it did a very good job of breaking out some important things that I would want any other tool to know. I would want it to know that this is like goofy at its core. It's silly at its core. And that's kind of what I'd like to form a community around. It talks about who my audience is, Delaware County natives, and also Shoretown locals from the area who are in on this joke. Goes through some of the stuff that was also in Alicia's. I like this part in Alicia's a lot better than mine, the way that it details voice and tone, although it does do some of the same things that Alicia's did as well. So it says like, these are things you should do, but also these are things you shouldn't do. Like, don't lean on Delaware County cliches like jawn, Wawa jokes, stuff like that. If you're a local, you know what those things are, and you're probably pretty sick of them. And
Yeah,
then
I love the what not to do's as well. I do think they're really helpful.
yes, yeah, same. And the thing that I really loved, because a lot of this is similar to Alicia's, it did, just from the screenshot in my website, it pulled out really great guidance. Like, these colors are exactly what I would have expected. And the guidance on the type is also really good. So yeah, it pulls out a bunch of stuff here. The thing that I really like though was this hard rules, like things that, given everything else that has been said in this doc, these things should never be ignored. And the big one, this is what it asked me about that I thought was really smart. It asked me how I wanted to consider, how I wanted the humor to be around Delaware County. And the thing it suggested as one of the options was never punch down. And I think that's important. Like, this is not making fun of Delco.
Mhm.
This is a fun thing for us who live in Delaware County to celebrate. So that was fun. It's really cool. And just to put it through its paces, I went to, well, first, let me show you my actual site. This is my actual site built with AWeber's landing page builder. I love it. It's really cool. I did this in like a half an hour. I had already done the drawings, but putting this page together, the builder made this image for me. It did all this awesome stuff. So that's my actual site. Then I went into AWeber, and all I did was say, create a landing page for my company based on the guideline doc, and then I pasted in the doc, and this is what it made. It's pretty cool. I mean,
Pretty
I would
fun,
swap
yeah.
out my graphics. I would swap out my logo. I didn't include my logo. That's something I should actually add to the doc. That's actually a really good thing, is a link to my logo.
A link. Yep.
So
I actually do have a link in there. I forgot to mention that. Yeah.
that's so smart. And I should have done that in mind. So next time it doesn't go and just try and create a logo. I should do that for lots of my imagery.
Mhm.
So it has a library. Actually, I'm going to do that right after this call, or this stream. So it has a library of all the imagery for my brand, or the important imagery. But it did a very good job. I actually really like the way that it presents. I have like a little wave report for local creeks and ponds and goofy stuff like that. And I like the way that it's presented better in this version that was made based on the style guide than on my actual site.
Yeah.
But
And I think what I think I'm discovering, and even hearing from you talking through this a little bit, is that like the style guide was just like a great exercise in general to do, just like about your business.
yeah,
Like it helped you tone like and put direction on the way you want to flip jokes. And like for me, it was like how I want my content to come across, and like really like streamlining and help you focus on, you know, your core purpose and your mission.
yeah,
So it did seem like that, like kind of like, oh, I like that you asked that question. Thank you.
yeah. Well, and the interview
Mhm.
side of it, I think, is so valuable because it forces you to maybe think about your business or your brand in a way that you hadn't before. So that's like, I have Claude or ChatGPT interview me all the time when I'm
Mhm.
trying to create new things or solve a problem or explore ideas, because oftentimes it'll ask me questions that I hadn't even thought to ask myself, that make me think about whatever the problem was in a completely different way.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then the last thing I did, just using the style guide as well, as I said, create an Instagram ad based on the brand guidelines, pasted them in as well. And I got something that I got to say, I think it did a good job with what it was given,
Mhm.
but also I hate it. So,
It
but
has
I
the AI feel to it. It's just like
yes,
similar like mine, it has like the 3 things at the bottom with the icon on there. Though it did switch the brand up a little bit to match yours nicely, like with the font,
yeah,
and the graphics that are kind of like, um, stickered on almost.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it definitely pulled that from my website screenshot as an example. I think I would like this a lot more if I had done two things, and I should have done this before the demo. Maybe I will. But there are two things I should have done here. One is it should have links to my actual stuff, to my logos, to my
Right.
t-shirt designs and stuff, because it recreated a bunch of stuff. And that's my visceral reaction to that, is like, this is not me, which is
Mhm.
what this style guide is supposed to solve. It's supposed to make it feel like me. So that's the big thing here. And then the second thing is something that we've said every single time we've had one of these streams, is the less information you give a prompt, the more generic the response is going to be, because
Right.
it's making more guesses. So it's worth spending just a little bit of time giving some direction about what it is I want. I just asked for an Instagram ad. If I were to ask a human to do the same thing, I would come up with something as bad because they don't know what I'm talking about or
Right.
like what I actually want. So it's worth giving that extra little bit of time to get the better result. Because now
Mhm.
I'm gonna have to go back in and regenerate anyway. I should have just given it more context ahead of time.
Yeah, but I think there's still a learning process, like,
Sure.
and when your original take, you weren't expecting it to do made up imagery. So now it's worth the extra time to go back and fix it because you'll be more satisfied with the results. Whereas in my graphics, all of them are coming back as like people dancing, and I'd rather them just be pictures of me. So I'm like,
Hmm.
maybe I'll work on getting some pictures. But even in my style guide, I can update and say, don't add it pictures right now. Like I'll add
Yeah.
my pictures. So that way I don't get thrown off by the things that like I don't like. Cause I feel like it's so easy to be like, oh, I hate it and I'm done.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
so it's worth that time to kind of like, okay, what don't I like about it? Let's educate my document so that it knows. So then next time I give the instruction, it's better.
Yeah. The thing I will say though is like it did a pretty good job of like understanding the visual language. Like
Mhm.
one of my illustration or two of my illustrations are like these rats carrying surfboards, and it did that here in the ad, and it also did that on the
Oh,
page.
yeah.
That made like a really weird surfboard here, but still, that's just wild. And the fact that it took a couple minutes to get me started
Yeah.
is like awesome. This is a great start.
Hmm.
And like the important thing is there's consistency between this page builder, which is AWeber's product, and ChatGPT, where I use the same prompt, but those two products have no concept of each other, but they made things that looked and feel very similar because they had that guidance,
Hmm.
which is the important part. And now, like you're saying, now the challenge is just to improve the guidance iteratively every time until I have something I'm super happy with.
Yeah, and once you put that time in, it's like this task in the future becomes so simple.
Yeah.
And just it's like, oh, I don't want to spend all the time teaching my AI to be better. I'll just do it. And it's like, if you to spend the time to make it better, it will be faster than you, or
Yeah.
can be. And you leave in like the details you want to customize, right? Like,
Yeah. And I mean, we both work at AWeber together. So like we can both testify to the fact that like we spent a lot of time early on, and I say we, but it was really some of the very smart and talented and creative people on our engineering team. um, they spent a lot of time up front connecting all of the great documentation that we had built over decades at AWeber and turning that into a knowledge hub that our agents can refer to. So that's like our GitHub repositories, our docs sites, all of our ticket tracking, all of this stuff is available to our agents so they have an understanding of our system and our processes and our history. So now what that means, all that upfront work led to a world in which Alicia and I can ship customer impacting features
mhm.
because all that context is there and so well documented and well connected. Like that's in our case, we're a 25-year-old company, but the same principle applies to you if you're just starting out, if you've been around for 1 year, if you're in pre-launch and you've been creating some sorts of documentation, you should be doing the same exercise that we just went through because it's going to make everything that you create with AI tools better.
Yeah, and like just talking on that centralized location, one thing I also like to do is have a folder on my either Google Drive or mostly on my desktop because I like it to be easy to like drag things in, like my logo or the header image I always like to use on things. I have a copy of that style guide. I just dropped it in there. So now I have easy access to that. Um, but it is just like a folder of things that I feel like I always have to give AI tools, and make it easy on hand, to have those things handy because then it's just like everything's right there. As you learn something new, put it there, note it in your doc, and then it's just that knowledge can be used everywhere.
Yeah. I love it. Well, that was a fun demo. So let me ask you, like, what's your top change you're going to make to your style guide?
Um, the top thing I think I would focus on is the imagery,
Same.
um, because I feel like that just takes away from everything else right now. And it's only because it's not hitting the mark. It's just like
Yeah.
I want it to be less about like the faces on the page and more about like the feeling. So like things like that, I think I'll work on there. I think the content's feeling pretty good. I went through a couple of rounds. I had it write a newsletter for me and stuff. So I think the imagery is where I'll focus.
Cool. Yeah, I'm the same. Well, that was another fun one. We are back on Tuesday at 12 p.m. Eastern time, 12 noon Eastern time. And I hope to see you there. I don't remember or even know what we're demoing, but I'm sure it's going to be fun.
And I think Jesse will be back. So no beginning hiccups. Sorry about that.
Or if they are, it'll be Jesse's fault.
Yes, exactly. We'll kick him off the meeting.
Yeah. Well, thanks, everybody.
Yes, thanks so much.
Tuesday.
Bye.
Drew is really good at making other people look really good.
Stunning.
And with the help of AWeber's marketing platform, he's built an entire audience on his ability to turn heads. So even though Drew's just a team of one, it never really feels that way.
That's a wrap, folks. Come on out.
Drew uses AWeber. It's how teams of one get more done.
Oh, thanks, Tim. Have sweet. You're the best, Tim.
With AWeber, it's like he has a whole staff helping him grow his audience and build professional-looking content.
And send. You got it. Great job, team.
From automated email campaigns.
Oh, of course, sign up. You got it from here.
To insight-packed reports.
How are we looking on new subscribers? Is that the day we launch the new course? Nice.
AWeber gives Drew the freedom to go forth.
Hey.
And be Drew. AWeber. Time to love what you do.